I don't remember exactly when I first heard Saurin's name. At a big university in California with more than 30,000 students, a person's name was usually just a sound that drifted past in the hallway. But Saurin Blake's name was different. You heard it everywhere. Did you hear Saurin sing last night? Oh my God. Saurin performed at the campus cafe again. Saurin's video on Instagram already hit hundreds of thousands of views. Even if you didn't want to know who he was, you still would. And me?
I'm Lennox Carter.
And my name was rarely mentioned like that. If Saurin was the spotlight, then I was the desk lamp at 2 in the morning. If he was famous for his voice, then I was famous for my grades. You're Lennox Carter, right? Someone in class asked me during the first week of sophomore year. Yeah. Freshman valedictorian. I nodded. That was usually the entire conversation.
No applause.
No crowd. No one recording videos. Just books, research papers, and long nights in the library. I thought my college life would just quietly pass by like that. Until the night I first heard Saurin sing. It was a Friday evening. I had no plans to go out. In fact, I was planning to stay in the library to finish a 12-page research paper on mass communication. But my roommate, Marcus, pulled up a chair and said, "You need to get out and breathe some fresh air."
I'm breathing. No.
You're breathing in the library. Is there a difference? Marcus looked at me like I just said something pathetic. Come with me to the campus cafe. Why? There's a performance. I don't like live music. Marcus smiled. You're saying that because you haven't heard Saurin yet. I sighed. 10 minutes later, I was standing in front of a cafe packed with students. The air was warm, smelling of roasted coffee, laughter, and clinking glasses. And on the small stage near the window was Saurin. I recognized him immediately, not because I'd met him before, but because everyone in the room was looking in that direction. Saurin stood under the soft golden light, holding a guitar. His hair was dark blonde, slightly long, falling over his forehead. The light made his eyes look like warm honey. But what made the entire room fall silent was when he started singing. Saurin's voice wasn't just good. There was something about it that forced you to listen. Low and warm, slightly husky on the lower notes, then soaring on the high notes as if the whole room had just been lifted off the ground. I realized I had stopped holding my phone, stopped thinking about my research paper, stopped thinking about anything at all. Just listening. Marcus whispered, "I told you so." I didn't reply. I just stood there and watched. Saurin sang one song, then another. By the third song, he smiled at the audience. "This is the last one." The whole room groaned in protest. Saurin shrugged. "Deal with the cafe manager." A girl shouted, "Saurin, sing one more." He smiled. "Next week. Okay?" Then he started the final song. This time it wasn't a cover. It was an original song he'd written himself. And for the first time, I heard the school's most famous voice, singing about a boy. Not vaguely, not metaphorically, clearly. I keep pretending I don't see you in the hallway, but my heart already runs ahead of me. Marcus turned to me. "Oh, I think he just came out." I frowned. "You sure?" Marcus shrugged. "The whole school knows Saurin likes guys." I looked back at the stage. Saurin was still singing, eyes half closed, as if he didn't care how many people were listening. The song ended. The cafe erupted in applause. Saurin bowed. Then he looked up, and in a very brief moment, his gaze stopped on me. I don't know why. I wasn't sitting closest. I wasn't even trying to stand out. But Saurin's eyes lingered on me. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Then he smiled. Not a stage smile. A small, real one. After that, he stepped down from the stage. Marcus elbowed me. "You just got looked at by Saurin. I think you're imagining it."
No.
Marcus grinned. "I think you've just entered the school star's line of sight." I shook my head. "Don't talk nonsense." But strangely, when I went back to the table to get coffee, Saurin was standing right behind me, very close. He said, "You're Lennox Carter, right?" I turned around. "Yeah." Saurin smiled. I heard you're the smartest guy in school. I frowned. And I heard you're the most famous. He laughed. Looks like we've both heard a lot of rumors. I was about to walk away, but Saurin said one more thing that stopped me. But I like a different rumor more. Which one? He tilted his head. That Lennox Carter has never come to watch me sing. I looked at him. True. So tonight was your first time? Yeah. Saurin smiled warmly. Then I feel honored. I didn't understand why. But when I left the cafe that night, I had the feeling that something had just begun. Something small, but enough to change my entire college life. And I had no idea that just a few months later, that famous boy would be holding my hand in front of the entire school's cameras. I thought the meeting with Saurin at the cafe was just a coincidence. Moments like that happen every day in college. You talk to someone for a few minutes, then both of you go back to your own lives. But it turned out, I had underestimated how famous Saurin was. And I had also underestimated how persistent he was. 2 days after that performance, I was sitting in the library. It was my usual spot, 3rd floor, table near the window, where the afternoon light fell on the pages at a very pleasant angle. My laptop was open. 3 research tabs. A Word file already 6 pages long. I was typing the 3rd sentence of an analysis paragraph when someone pulled out the chair across from me. I didn't look up. The library was crowded. That was normal. But the person didn't open a book. Didn't open a laptop. Just sat there. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. I looked up. Saurin. He was resting his chin on his hand, watching me like I was an interesting movie. I blinked. How did you know I was here? Saurin shrugged. I asked. Asked who? Someone in the communications department. Why? He smiled faintly. I was curious. I looked back at my laptop screen. You came looking for me just to watch me study?
No.
Then, Saurin tilted his head, his eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. I wanted to know what the smartest person in school looks like when he's thinking. I sighed. You're distracting me.
Sorry.
He said that, but showed no intention of leaving. A minute later, Saurin said, Do you ever take a break? I am taking a break. You call this a break? I'm writing a paper. Exactly. Saurin smiled. That's the problem. I closed my laptop. What do you want? He answered immediately. Coffee. I don't work at a cafe.
No.
Saurin said. I want to go get coffee with you. I looked at him. Truthfully, I wasn't someone who got asked out often. Not because I was unfriendly. It was just that people usually thought I was too busy or too serious. But Saurin was looking at me like this was the most natural thing in the world. I asked, Don't you have fans who want to get coffee with you? Saurin shrugged.
Ido.
A lot. Then why me? He thought for a few seconds, then gave a very simple answer. Because you don't look at me like a fan. I stayed silent. That was true. When I looked at Saurin, I didn't think about million-view videos. I thought about a boy with a beautiful voice and a slightly dangerous smile. Finally, I said, 15 minutes. Saurin smiled brightly as if I had just agreed to go on a trip to Europe. The cafe in the afternoon was quieter than the night of the performance. We sat near the window. Saurin ordered a latte. I ordered an Americano. He watched me stir my coffee and asked, Do you ever do anything pointless? What do you mean? I mean, something without a goal. I'm drinking coffee right now.
No.
Saurin smiled. I mean like singing in the shower, or going for a run at midnight. I sleep at midnight. That's exactly what I thought. I looked at him. What about you? Saurin shrugged. I write music at 3 in the morning. Sounds pointless. Yeah. He smiled softly. But it's also the only thing that makes me feel alive. We were quiet for a moment. I realized something strange. Saurin wasn't like the famous people I'd seen online. There was no arrogance, no desire to impress. He was just a guy talking very naturally. After a while he asked, Do you have a boyfriend yet? I nearly choked on my coffee. You're asking that straight up? Yeah. Saurin shrugged. Saves time. I wiped my mouth.
No.
Girlfriend.
No.
Saurin smiled. So the rumor was true. What rumor? That Lennox Carter is too busy to date. I looked out the window. Maybe. Or, Saurin said, his voice a little lower. You just haven't met the right person yet. I turned back to look at him. Saurin's eyes at that moment were strange. Not joking. Not sarcastic. Just direct. I asked, Are you hitting on me? Saurin thought for 2 seconds. Then nodded. Yeah. I couldn't help laughing. You flirt with strangers in the library like this?
No.
Saurin said. Only with the person who watched me sing. Like they were actually listening. I stayed silent. Outside the window, afternoon sunlight fell across the table. In that moment, I began to understand one thing. Saurin wasn't looking for me out of curiosity. He had been paying attention to me. And before I could think about how dangerous that was, he said one more thing. Next week, I'm performing at the big auditorium. I know. Will you come? I have a research paper. Saurin leaned forward. His eyes lit up. Lennox. Yeah. If you come. He smiled softly. I'll sing a song just for you. My heart skipped a beat. And I didn't know that performance would be the first time Saurin held my hand in front of hundreds of phones recording. I tried not to go. For the entire week after that coffee, I kept reminding myself that Saurin's promise was just casual talk. People like him, famous on campus, always standing under stage lights, often said things that made others flutter without really meaning them. And I overthought everything. On Thursday night, the big auditorium hosted a student music night. Saurin was the headliner. His posters were everywhere on campus. I had walked past at least 8 of them in one day. On every poster, Saurin was smiling. The kind of smile that made you understand why half the school liked him. Marcus watched me standing in front of one of the posters in the hallway. You staring at your future boyfriend? I'm just reading the info. Yeah. Marcus folded his arms. The info is, you're going tonight. I have a research paper. You already finished it. I still need to edit. Marcus smiled. Lennox. What? You've edited it 3 times already. I stayed silent. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Just admit it. Admit what? You want to go. I sighed. Maybe Marcus was right. Not because I was a fan of Saurin, but because I wanted to know if he would really sing that song for me. The auditorium was so packed I had to stand at the back. More than 300 students. The stage lights were blinding. The air smelled of plastic seats and the noisy chatter before the show started. I found a spot near the wall, a place where no one would notice me. Marcus had already pushed his way to the front. I'm recording, he shouted over his shoulder. I don't need it. You will. I shook my head. Then the lights went out. The whole auditorium plunged into darkness. Applause erupted. And when the stage lights came back on, Saurin was standing there. No guitar. Just a microphone. He wore a simple white shirt and black pants. The light made his hair almost glow. The applause grew louder. Saurin smiled. Hello, everyone. The crowd screamed back. Before we start, Saurin said, his voice dropping a little. I want to say something. A few people whistled. I usually sing for everyone. He looked out at the audience. But tonight, a small pause. There's one person here I want to sing for. The whole auditorium instantly buzzed. Marcus was definitely recording. I felt my throat go dry. No way. There was no way He's standing somewhere at the back. Saurin continued. Because he doesn't like standing out. A few students turned to look toward the back of the auditorium. My heart started pounding. He's really smart. Saurin smiled. And he's also really bad at pretending he doesn't care about me. Laughter rippled through the room. I wanted to disappear. Lennox, Saurin said. Just one word. But the entire auditorium immediately turned to look for me. I heard Marcus yell. I knew it. I almost wanted to sink into the floor. Saurin kept talking. If you're listening. He looked straight toward the back. I want you to come up here. The whole auditorium went OHHH. I stayed frozen. No, no way. Saurin tilted his head, smiling playfully. Lennox, I'll stand here until you come up. Laughter rang out again. A girl near me whispered, "Who is that?" Marcus turned and waved frantically. "It's him." I shot Marcus a death glare. He just grinned. "Go!" I took a deep breath, then stepped out from my spot. Immediately I heard the whispers. "That's Lennox Carter, the valedictorian." Oh my God! I had never been looked at by so many people. Every step up the stage stairs felt like a mile. When I stood in front of Saurin, he leaned in and whispered, "I thought you'd run away." "I thought about it." Saurin smiled. "But you didn't. You forced me." He shrugged. "True." Then Saurin turned back to the audience. "This is Lennox." Applause erupted. I stood there stiffly. Saurin turned back to me. "You know what song I'm going to sing?" "I guess not." "A new one," he said. "Written after our coffee." My heart pounded. The music started. Just piano. Saurin began to sing. This time his voice was so much closer. I could hear every breath. He reads the world like a book. While I only know melodies, but somehow when he looks at me, I feel like he finally sees me. The whole auditorium fell silent. A few phones went up to record. I stood beside Saurin, not knowing where to look. At the chorus, he turned to me. "If the whole world is watching, I still want to be brave tonight." And then, Saurin did something I was completely unprepared for. He took my hand. Just like that. But the entire auditorium exploded. Screams, applause, cheering. And I knew, at least 50 phones were recording. But Saurin wasn't looking at them. He was only looking at me. His hand was warm, holding mine tightly. And in that moment, I understood one thing. Saurin wasn't doing this for attention. He was doing it because he really wanted to hold my hand. The problem was, I had no idea that the video would spread across the entire school's internet in one night. And the next morning, my quiet life would completely disappear. The next morning, I woke up to 37 messages. That had never happened in my life. My phone was usually very quiet. A few texts from Marcus, a few emails from professors, sometimes class notifications. But that morning, my phone screen looked like it had been through a storm. "Marcus, you're famous now." Marcus, 2 minutes later. "I'm serious." Marcus, 5 minutes later. "The video is everywhere." Marcus, 10 minutes later. "Wake up." I opened my eyes, frowned, then opened Instagram. I saw it immediately. The video. Title: Saurin Blake holds Lennox Carter's hand on stage, flushed face red heart. Views: 184,000. I sat up straight. This was the school's internal network, but the video had been reposted to many other accounts. Another clip. Views: 240,000. Another clip. 350,000. I stared at the screen, then closed my eyes. This can't be happening. Marcus burst into the dorm room right then. "Oh!" He folded his arms. "You've seen it." I looked at Marcus. "You recorded it?" Marcus grinned. "I only recorded one." "How many people recorded?" Marcus thought. "About the entire auditorium?" I sighed and put my phone down. "My life is over." Marcus sat on the bed across from me.
No,
he said. "Your life just started." The first thing I noticed when I stepped onto campus that day was that everyone was looking at me, not just a passing glance. The kind of look that said they knew exactly who I was. 2 girls walking past whispered, "That's Lennox." "Oh my God, it's really him." Another guy said to his friend, "That's the guy Saurin held hands with." I tried to walk faster, but it didn't help. In the first class, the professor walked in smiling. "I guess we have a celebrity in our class today." The whole class turned to look at me. Marcus nudged my shoulder. "I told you." I wanted to disappear. But the worst part was when I ran into Saurin. That afternoon, I was walking through the central square when I saw a group of students gathered. In the middle of the crowd was Saurin. He was signing someone's notebook. Another girl was taking a selfie with him. When Saurin looked up, his eyes found me immediately. For real. As if he always knew where I was. Saurin said something to the group, then stepped out of the crowd. Walking straight toward me, I folded my arms. Do you know what's happening?
Ido.
The video. Yeah. The whole school is talking about it. Saurin shrugged. That's understandable. Understandable. I lowered my voice. You dragged me onto the stage in front of 300 people. Saurin tilted his head. You didn't like it? I was silent for a few seconds. The truth was, I didn't hate it, but I also wasn't used to the whole school looking at me like I just stepped out of a movie. I'm just not used to it. Saurin nodded. I am, right? But, he looked at me, his eyes softening. I don't regret it. My heart skipped a beat. About holding my hand? Saurin said.
No.
I don't either. He smiled. But I do regret one thing. What? Saurin sighed. I should have done it sooner. I looked at him. Are you serious? Very serious. A group of students walked past whispering. Oh my God. They're talking. Saurin glanced at them, then turned back to me. Does it bother you? Bother what? Everyone knowing. I thought for a moment. My life before had been simple. Library, classes, grades, no stage lights,
No viral videos.
but when I looked at Saurin, I remembered the moment he held my hand on stage. Without hesitation, without fear, I said, I think, I just need time. Saurin nodded. Fair. Then he stepped a little closer. So while you take that time, yeah, can we still get coffee? I laughed. You only think about coffee?
No.
Saurin said. I'm also thinking about something else. What? He looked straight into my eyes. Going on a date with you. My heart beat faster again. You're really straightforward. I'm a musician. Saurin smiled. We're not good at hiding our feelings. I looked at him for a few seconds, then said, Okay. Saurin blinked. Okay. Yeah. You just agreed to date me? I just agreed to coffee. Saurin laughed loudly. Progress. But as we started walking across the square together, I didn't notice that on the other side, someone was standing there watching. A tall guy with black hair wearing the school's baseball jacket. His eyes stopped on Saurin's hand, which was unconsciously brushing my wrist as we talked, and that gaze was not friendly at all. I would only learn his name a few days later, Lucas, and at that moment, I still didn't know that Lucas would become the person who hated our relationship the most in the entire university. I learned Lucas's name 3 days later, not because I wanted to, but because almost everyone knew him. That night, Saurin and I were sitting on the grass behind the dorms. This was one of the few places on campus where we could talk without everyone staring. Actually, the fame from that video still hadn't died down. Every time I walked with Saurin, people would glance. Some took photos, some whispered, but Saurin didn't seem to care. He lay on his back on the grass, hands behind his head, looking up at the night sky. I like this spot. Why? Because there's no stage. I looked at him. You don't like the stage?
Ido.
Saurin smiled faintly. But up there everyone always looks at me like I'm someone else. And here. He turned his head to look at me. I'm just Saurin. We were quiet for a while. The night breeze carried the smell of damp grass and distant music from another dorm party. Saurin said, You know what's funny? What? The whole school thinks we're a couple. I raised an eyebrow. Aren't we? Saurin sat up immediately. Wait. I thought we were in the dating stage? I thought we were dating. I smiled. You never officially asked. Saurin looked at me for a few seconds. Then he said, Okay. He turned fully to face me. Lennox Carter. Yeah. Will you be my boyfriend? I didn't get to answer, because right then, there were footsteps behind us. A voice rang out. How touching. I turned around. A tall guy was standing a few meters away. Black hair, school baseball jacket, cold eyes. Saurin stood up immediately. Lucas. Lucas smiled thinly. Long time no see. I looked between the two of them. You two know each other? Lucas answered first. We used to be very close. Saurin folded his arms. What do you want? Lucas stepped closer. His eyes moved to me. You're Lennox. Not a question. A statement. Yeah. Lucas nodded slowly. Valedictorian. I heard you're the most famous guy in school. I glanced at Saurin. Saurin said quietly, Don't. But Lucas had already smiled. You know what's funny? Lucas said, his voice slightly mocking. Just one video. And suddenly, Lennox Carter becomes Saurin's special person. Saurin stepped forward. Lucas. You should leave. Lucas didn't move. You're always like this. Lucas looked at Saurin. Always choosing people who make everything more dramatic. I didn't choose Lennox for drama. Then why? Saurin didn't answer right away. He just said one simple sentence. Because I like him. The air was silent for a few seconds. Lucas laughed. Like? He shook his head. Saurin, do you really think you know what like is? I started to feel uncomfortable. What's your problem with this? Lucas looked at me. His eyes were sharp. I just find it interesting. Interesting how? Because you don't know. I frowned. Don't know what? Lucas looked at Saurin, then said slowly, Saurin always gets bored very quickly. The air seemed to freeze. All his relationships. Lucas continued. 3 months. For months. Then it ends. I looked at Saurin. He was silent. Lucas smiled faintly. You're the smartest guy in school, right, Lennox? So you probably understand. People like Saurin. Lucas shrugged. Don't stay long. Saurin stepped closer to Lucas. Enough. Lucas looked at him for a few seconds, then turned to me one last time. Just a piece of advice, he said. Don't let your heart get too close to someone who loves the spotlight. Lucas turned and walked away. His footsteps gradually disappeared into the darkness. A long while later, I said, You used to date him? Saurin exhaled.
No.
Then why did he say that? Saurin looked down at the grass, then said very slowly, Lucas is someone I used to like. My heart stopped. But he didn't like me. Saurin continued. Not that way. I stayed silent. Saurin looked at me. Do you believe him? I thought for a few seconds, then said, I don't know. Saurin nodded slowly. Fair. A long silence. Finally, I asked the question Lucas had cut off earlier. Saurin. Yeah. What did you just ask me? He looked at me. His eyes softened. I asked, if you want to be my boyfriend. I looked at him for a few seconds, then said, yes. Saurin smiled. But I didn't know that. Somewhere on campus, Lucas was watching that performance video one more time. And this time, his eyes were no longer just annoyed. They were something much more dangerous. Becoming Saurin's boyfriend was nothing like anything I had ever experienced. Just 1 week later, the whole school was basically certain about it. Not because we were showing off, but because Saurin wasn't good at hiding it. He held my hand when we walked across campus. He put his hand on my shoulder when we sat in the cafe. Once, in the library, he even leaned over and whispered, You know, I'm trying really hard not to kiss you right now. I almost dropped my pen. We're in the library. Yeah. Saurin said very seriously. That's why I'm trying. Marcus sat across from us. He looked up from his laptop. Can I change tables? I kicked Marcus under the table. But besides those light moments, there were other looks too. Looks like Lucas's. Not friendly. One afternoon, as I was leaving class, 2 guys from the baseball team were whispering in the hallway. That's Lennox. He and Saurin are really together? Looks like it. One of them said quietly, Lucas is not going to like this. I pretended not to hear, but that sentence stayed in my head all day. That night I was in Saurin's room, not the dorm. Saurin had a small apartment near campus, thanks to money from his music videos. The apartment wasn't big, but it was warm. There was a guitar leaning against the wall, a small electric piano, and dozens of notebooks full of songs. I was sitting on the sofa reading a research paper when Saurin sat down next to me. Very close. You're studying? Yeah. At 10 at night? I have an exam next week. Saurin sighed. I'm dating the most studious person in the world. I think you like that. Yeah, he said.
Ido.
Saurin looked at me for a few seconds, then asked, Lennox. Yeah. Do you ever think that we are very different? I closed my laptop. You're a singer. I'm a nerd. Yeah. Saurin nodded. Do you think that's a problem? I looked at him. Are you asking because of Lucas? Saurin was silent for a second. Maybe. I thought for a moment. You know what I like about you? What? You don't try to be someone else. You like singing. You sing. You like writing music at 3 in the morning. You do it. I like reading books. I do it. I shrugged. We're different. But that doesn't mean we don't fit. Saurin looked at me for a very long time. Then he smiled. You always say things that make me feel dumber. I don't say that.
No.
Saurin said. You just say it smarter. I laughed. About 10 minutes later, I was reading when I felt Saurin staring at me. What? Nothing. You're staring at me. Yeah. Why? Saurin shrugged. Because you're beautiful. I blinked. You say that so naturally. Because it's true. My heart beat a little faster. I turned back to my book. But Saurin kept staring. Finally I said, if you keep looking like that, yeah, I won't be able to read. Saurin leaned closer. Very close. Then stop reading. I looked at him. The distance between us was only a few centimeters. What are you doing? I think you know. I didn't get to answer, because Saurin gently touched his lips to mine. Our first kiss was light, not rushed, just a quiet moment between two people. When Saurin pulled back, he smiled softly.
Sorry.
For what? I should have asked first. I looked at him for a few seconds, then said, next time, you can ask after. Saurin laughed loudly. But that happiness didn't last long. 3 days later, a rumor started spreading across campus. At first I thought it was just nonsense, until Marcus ran into my room with his phone in hand. Lennox, you need to see this. I looked at the screen. An anonymous post on the student forum. Title: Saurin Blake is only using Lennox Carter for attention. I frowned. What? Marcus scrolled down. The post was long, very detailed. It said Saurin had done the same thing with other people before, that he only liked drama, that our relationship was just a performance. At the end of the post was one line. Wait and see. In 3 months they'll break up. I felt my stomach twist. Marcus said quietly, who do you think wrote this? I didn't need to think long. Only one name came to mind. Lucas. And I didn't know that this was only the first step in his plan.